Hold that up. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. We were just joking here about how people practice symbolic hygiene of wearing their masks down here or for 2 seconds when they enter a store or whatever it happens to be. I'm guilty of that much of the time. Welcome. So this, I'll give us an introduction before I light our chalice. This is part 2 of 6 weeks of tools and poems and pauses and kind of reflective pieces that are designed to allow people to have spiritual practices. It is designed by Eric. The original first 3 weeks are based on Eric Walker Wickstrom's work called Spirit in Practice, which is a UU curriculum. But most of that is designed to be in a group that's committed, not a random group of people who come on Saturdays and a group of people back at home. So it's designed, as many things were not too long ago, to be physically present. So I'm going to bounce around through that and try to give people exercises they can take home. And although the exercises stand alone, they really sort of collectively, this sort of spiritual journey of random things, I suppose you'd say, does put you in touch, I think, with quite a bit of, direction as to where you might go in your life. So if you've got constructive habits in place, you'll probably feel that. And if you don't, you probably will feel that as well. So being a UU means that you probably, in more than any other tradition, you are your own guide, right? We have this balance of freedom and yet responsibility that we have to take on. Sometimes we would wish we didn't have that responsibility to guide ourselves, but we obviously have that freedom here. So we're going to look primarily today at a couple exercises that are designed to prioritize our most precious resources, those being the time we spend, which is the most precious resource we have in life, of course, and then also our financial resources, and then also the spirit of communion of who we spend our time with, so sort of socially. So we're going to do an exercise in that, but that's harder work. I'm going to start with a reading from William Schultz, who was the former UUA president 3 or 4 presidents back. He also became the executive director of Amnesty International USA. Thoughtful man, Bill Schultz. Nice guy. He says this, and I'll light our chalice as I prepare to say this. He says, when I was in high school, I ran a track for a season or 2 to meet an athletic obligation the school had. Whereas the coach and all the stars of the team would wax poetic about the thrill of the run, what I liked best was that when you were finished, you had 10 minutes to catch your breath. During those 10 minutes, life felt worth living, he says. I was swept up in gratitude. Spirituality, he says, is not unlike catching your breath and being immediately grateful for it. Indeed, in Hebrew, the word spirit originally means breath or wind. He says, I want that which I love to live forever, and so I'm forever tempted to be a runner from life's insecurities and uncertainties. I'm forever wanting to bury my head in the distractions of the everyday. But occasionally, I stop running and catch my breath. Or perhaps it is my breath that catches me. Occasionally, the splendor of the world, some one thing, introduces itself into my life, intrudes itself into my life in a way that I cannot help but notice. Occasionally, the glory of the stars explodes before me in a way that I cannot turn away from. Whatever discloses that abundance, whatever reminds us of the best we can be, whatever summons us to transform the world into ever wider channels of justice and of love, that is spirituality. I'm going to repeat the close of that. It says it's so pretty. Occasionally, I stop running and catch my breath. Or perhaps it is my breath that catches me. Occasionally, the splendor of the world, someone, something introduces itself into my life, intrudes it into my life in a way that I cannot help but notice. Occasionally, the glory of the stars explodes before me in a way I cannot turn away from. Whatever discloses that abundance, whatever reminds us of the best we can be, whatever summons us to transform the world into whatever channels wider of justice and of love, that is spirituality. Nice. So last week we did a guided meditation, and we also did a practice of the beads. I made a series of beads. I had one left. I gave it to Barbara, who's here, but I can make more. In fact, I'm going to make more. And we walked our way through those. So if you're at home and you didn't get that, or you want to get that, I'll put you on my list, and we'll get you both those in that piece of information. I have a couple copies of the meditation and the bead practice here, but I do not have the beads with me yet. So I encourage people, if you're at home, if you don't have it with you, Deb and Suzanne and whoever's watching on YouTube, to go get your wallet and your phone or your day timer or calendar, whatever it is that kind of you prioritize your time with, and some expression of the way that you spend your money or your resources, and sort of get them near you. We're going to do 3 kind of intentional practices that relate to time, resources, and your social life, your communing life. So if you want to take a minute to do that, you can go right ahead. This first piece is called Sacred Rest. I invite you to just be still and remain still and thoughtful. We have clipboards here for people at home, and you're going to need a pen. I'm going to try to screen share the work here with me. That's going to take a second, so bear with me. Let's see here. Okay. I don't encourage you to necessarily look at it, but if you want to read along, you can. Nearly every religious tradition encourages us to take time for pure rest. In the Jewish tradition, this is called the Sabbath, a complete break from all work. Christians, of course, also observe the Sabbath, except on Sunday, and Muslims too, in their own way. One Episcopal priest calls the Sabbath a time to do whatever you truly feel called to do and nothing you feel you should do. That's my favorite Sabbath definition I've ever heard. A time to do whatever you feel called to do and nothing you feel you should do. Another way to think about this examination is to ask yourself how you manage and or integrate rest, spontaneity, creativity into your life. So, pen in hand, quieted spirit. You can flip over the sheets if you have them here. It's probably better to just have a blank sheet. There's not enough space on the sheets. I don't want to kill too many trees after all. And you can look at it later, and then if you have it marged or copy, if you want to share it with somebody or look at it again, you can that way. So, have you ever known times that you would equate to being a Sabbath? Regular, predictable times, not momentary moments of awe like Bill Schultz talked about. When were they? And what made them sacred rest for you? Think about those precious times of just being. We get a lot of trapped in doing. Sometimes we miss the being. Especially we UUs who are so focused on what we should do and what our character is expressing and undoing social ills. Do you regularly schedule such times in your life today? Are there habits that nurture your spirit? If you have those, how do you manage to sustain them? And I encourage people to just kind of free write. You don't have to even listen to me. Just, if you're on a roll, just go. What is it like for you to manage the nurturing, creative, restful, spontaneous side of yourself with your obligations? What's that like for you? How well do you do that? How well do you follow your bliss? We all relax a little in our own way. Relaxing in a Sabbath way grows your soul. Do you have enough of that? Maybe you have too much and you don't get anything done. I don't know. But what are the challenges to those moments that just are exercise and rest at the same time for your soul? What are the challenges to that? Sometimes those challenges demand us to yield to them. That's fine. We have other priorities than just our own spirit, of course. But our own spirit and soul has to be a priority too. Otherwise, we run dry. Why don't you write yourself a note summarizing what you want to take away from this little time soulful management exercise? Write it at the bottom of your page so it's easy to see. Whatever it is you learned or felt that you want to hold on to and cherish. Let's take a little break. Just to stretch, move, stand up. Just a little short break. Because we're going to do this again 2 more times. So, and I'll reset our screen.
Can you email me that document quickly so I can send it to
them? Okay.
Did you stop sharing? You did.
Did I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Did I?
I don't know.
Okay. We're good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Pull out your wallets. If you don't have that, imagine through your financial life. People often think that money and spirituality are unrelated or even contradictory. We're all sort of, in the Western world, kind of trained on the sayings of, let's see if I can screen share here. That money is the root of all evil, right? It's kind of the classic spiritual take is that money is bad. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God, Jesus presumably says. Yet money is really, at its core, money is nothing more than a means of ascribing value and worth in a way that we can exchange. That's really what money is at its core. It's probably the most accurate description of it. We don't think of it that way, but that's what it is. It's value put into an exchanged way. Yet the same word for worship is the core of that is to ascribe worth to. Worship is to give worth to things. So, money is a way of ascribing worth. Let's fall into a still space. And again, I invite you to not listen too carefully to my words, but just guilt-free, let your mind wander around money as I float through some guiding questions about how you relate to it. You could flip over the sheet and again, try to preserve the front if you want. It gives you more room to move around if you want to write notes. How conscious are you of your choices around how you spend your money and or save your money? Not good or bad, just how thoughtful are you that it matters? Do you think about it? Do you think about your resources as an extension of yourself and your impact on the world? Because it's probably, outside your personal relationships, the most impactful role you have in the world is your relationship with your resources and your money. Again, guilt-free, no questions, just honest assessment. Does the way you spend your money reflect your values? Spend, invest, save. Does it reflect who you and what you honor? If the answer is yes, how have you managed to achieve that? If the way you spend your money and your resources is not true to you and who you want to be, how have you managed not to see that connection? How have you managed not to see that very rich connection, if that's true? What are some of the spiritual challenges you associate with your resources and your money? If you're caught up in greed or envy, what might be a spiritual antidote to that? In general, for others, what is the antidote to greed or envy? Are you giving away too much to charity, to your family, too little, the right amount but without much heart? how might you want to sustain this reflection when this moment is over? And given that we just talked about your time, how might you better in your life combine your time, its own resource, with the resource of money, whether you have a little or a lot? How might you better combine your time and your money to have more joy, and how might you better combine your time and money to have more impact, to express your values out into the world? At the bottom of your page, write the kind of most important takeaways you have for this exercise. Let's take a little break. 30 seconds or so. Hard work, isn't it? I mean, if you haven't done it, which most of us sort of kind of live, we do this, but it's not fun. It's hard spiritual work to look at who you really are. It is. Sounds like you're valuing your time well. Okay, the third one is about communion and social things, similar style. When people hear the word communion, they usually think about the Christian communion of bread and wine and Jesus' Last Supper and the recreation of that in ritual. But the most first definition of that word in the American Heritage Dictionary is not really religious at all. In fact, the word communion has sort of been usurped by religion, but it's the act or instance of sharing thoughts and feelings. Think about that. That's a communion, right? Coming together and sharing thoughts and feelings. Mutual participation is the root of the Latin word for communion. Common and community are in there too. Eric Walker Wickstrom sticks with the idea of food in his questions, but I didn't want to do that. I encourage you to open up your calendar if you have that, or your mental calendar, and an exercise of communion. You know the drill. Listen carefully as you want to, while you muse on your relationship with your social and relational life. Think about the moments that not haphazardly, but intentionally place you in communion with others. In a way that's as guilt-free and as shame-free as possible. How do you feel about those connections? Is there enough? Just about the right amount? Are you lonely? Are you overwhelmed? Are you enmeshed in relationships you don't want to be in? Are those relationships serving the other person Or maybe neither of you? Is that or any situation temporary or permanent? What comes to your heart or mind about how your values are expressed with who you spend your time with? We just asked you to look through your financial life and your time life. Let's look through your social life. Are they expressions of your values? One of the hardest lessons of those of us who've been participating in the sort of journey on understanding our racism has been the clarity by which we've sort of been assaulted with the reality of how few people of color most of us have in intimate relationships with. How much of your choices about how you spend and who you spend your time with feel like they're in your control? What are the takeaways in this conversation about communion that you don't want to forget? Put that at the bottom of your sheet. What did you learn? And I invite people to, at home watching, I'm going to stop share. Or anyone here to just share what came up. Anything came up in these three things together, separate? What'd you learn, Barbara?
That last one, 90% of my social life.
Barbara's saying 90% of her social life
is valued. And my value is connection. I want connection with people. 90%. And what I got out of this is that 10% I can put aside and say that's generosity.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Barbara's suggesting she's sort of 90% successful at holding these connections she has as meaningful, I suppose is my word, but not yours.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd give you an A- for 90%. It's pretty good. Yeah. I have an interesting relationship with that as well. Being a minister, it's odd, but yeah, I'm reflective of that a lot. I don't know how helpful it is, but I think about it a lot.
One of the things I came to mind was in the pandemic, everything came to such a screeching halt.
Right.
And now coming out of it and starting to do things again, it's like not necessarily choosing to do the same things and certainly not as many things.
Yeah.
Definitely, that doesn't feel right anymore to be that busy.
Leanne suggesting that the pandemic kind of taught us to prioritize a little better, maybe my words, but yeah. And that we really may not need as much activity as yeah. Any other thoughts? People at home? I mean, we're thoughtful people, so this isn't a revelation. We're not walking into a gang of thugs and asking these questions. We're talking to regular church people, so yeah.
I just have so many troubled people that I know, and I mean, you can look at that as generosity, but I mean, that's, I don't know. I mean, after the pandemic, like, just so many kids are having trouble and need help.
Yeah.
And like, do all of our relationships turn into helping other people who are troubled. And it's just really sad.
Yeah. There's a lot of need out there, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, and there's no particular easy answer to that, as to where one defends one's own self and where one gives.
I mean, my daughter has had 3 people tell her that they were suicidal in her short life.
Yeah, young people in particular.
It's so hard. And, I mean, she's not going to say, I don't want to be your friend, but it's so hard on her.
Yeah. Particularly hard on teens. I don't want to reveal too much, but yeah, it's a hard balance. And that's our spiritual work to balance that. I mean, it's there's times in your life when you give more than you get, I think. And, the question really becomes, I think for all of us, are you nurturing yourself enough to give where you can? And if not, are you using your time wisely in order to be able to be of service? Or are you just overwhelmed? And if so, then maybe you need a Sabbath. Maybe you need a break from, take them in private little ways. Yeah.
And another one for the wallet one.
Yeah, for money, resources.
Yeah, so my value system is that I put my money where my heart is.
Yeah.
And I do that pretty well, except I give a lot to impulsively.
Okay.
To political here and there. And oh my gosh, they want to give me 10 here and a month there. And I think
generous impulsivity.
Absolutely.
And I understand.
And what I put on the bottom of the page, what I'm going to do is to consolidate my giving into priority. And
so this lesson is taught, Barbara, I think it's fair to say, is gonna be more orderly and maybe a little bit even less emotional about the way you give. But let me ask you a question. What's wrong with that spontaneous, this need, that need? Why? What's wrong with that?
Well, I also
What's wrong with being spontaneously generous without being systematic about it?
Well, yeah, except that I do believe that I'm used by the media, and I want to cut that down. Barbara's
suggesting she's in a way you're manipulated by this. Yeah, well, yeah, true. For me, I feel like I'm pretty generous, but I give heartlessly. Like, I want to remove that feeling almost from my life. So I give, but I make it an unspiritual act, and I can't explain exactly why I do that. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we're the opposite is essentially, really. Yeah.
Instead of impulsively giving, think about it.
Yeah.
And think about what my priorities really are.
Yeah.
And what I want to give to the world.
It's a good task to learn. Yeah. My mom would, complain endlessly about all the phone calls she got on her landline, and then she'd turn around and give them $10, and I was like, "Ma, you are absolutely doing no one any. I mean, you're creating a job for somebody, I suppose, but And then when I suggested, like, why don't you find 3 groups that you want to give $500 a year to? And she thought it was funny because she thought that was way too much. But since she gave to everybody, she was constantly barraged by that. Any other thoughts? It's an interesting, it's a very simple exercise, isn't it? But it's kind of infinitely important to get it at least close to right, I suppose you'd say. So I'm going to close us now with an intercessory prayer. I invite you to close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out.
Do you want to share it?
You can share this if you want, or yeah, you can. I'll screen share for those who, yeah, that's fine. Quiet your mind, gently bringing stillness to your thoughts, to that sometimes racing internal monologue. Let's prepare to find ourselves a stillness, that still quiet voice within. Allow the thought of a person you know very well, someone you know and love, to come into your consciousness. Don't force it. Just be and see who arises. This person can be living or long gone. Let that person flow on, honoring that you felt them and saw them. Other people might come to mind, or maybe one just keeps coming back. Don't be attached. Notice if there's anyone with particular energy drawing your attention. See if there's one person you want to pray for. Now ask God, your higher power, your own inner knowing. Ask that still small voice what it is you should be praying for. You might hear words, you might become aware of a feeling. You might get an idea for something you should do. Notice it. Don't hold too tightly. Pray that prayer. You could say, this is what I wish for you. This is what I pray for you. This is what I hope for you. Genuineness being the key. Focus all your intentions and hopes for that person, living or dead. Allow yourself to be healed by the emotions that come from that intention, this invisible act. I now invite you to repeat the same process, thinking of a person you don't know well, maybe somebody you encountered, someone not central in your life. I'm thinking of the guy who used to sleep on our bench outside the office here at church. I think about him a lot. Feel that person. Think about what you wish for that person, what you hope for that person. And in your own quiet voice, say, this is what I hope for. I invite you to clear your mind of that person And dare to invite in a person you are in conflict with. That's probably the easiest one to find of all. Now ask God, your higher power, whatever, your inner knowing, what it is you should be praying for this person. Notice whatever it is. It might have a softness to it. You don't touch that often when you think of this person. Pray the prayer, this is what I wish for you. This is what I hope for you. Amen. Our closing words come from Ralph Waldo Emerson and William Ellery Channing and Amanda Gorman. I just thought they were all beautiful. Emerson says, within us is the soul of the whole. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related. The eternal one. Within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related. The eternal one. That is what we speak of at the close of every service when we talk about that which binds us. William Ellery Channing says, I call that mind free, which discovers everywhere the radiant signatures of the infinite spirit, and in them finds help to their own spiritual enlargement. Classic 18th century, 19th century flowery language, but beautiful. I call that mind free, which discovers everywhere the radiant signatures of the infinite spirit, and in them finds help to their own spiritual enlargement. Amanda Gorman, more simply than the other two highfalutin Unitarians, says, there is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it. There is always light if we are brave enough to see it, if we are brave enough to be it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's a nice little Sabbath, isn't it, every Saturday? I enjoy this. It's joyful to prepare. I hope it's meaningful, and I hope you at home are coming. I can hand out stuff tomorrow.